We're live here from the nation's capital, where we just saw the president give his very first State of the Union speech. So how did he do? Here with the great presidential historian and author of the book Game of Thorns, Mr. Doug Wead. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
I spoke to you earlier. You had very high expectations going into this speech tonight. Did he meet them?
Listen, I think this was one of the greatest State of the Union speeches that I've ever heard. And I make a living studying them, not just read them. I've read them all, but studying these speeches. I think this was great.
What made it great?
Emotion and morality. Sun Tzu said that in a war or battle, the side that is perceived to have a moral advantage will eventually win. In 1862, Abraham Lincoln gave a State of the Union address, and up till that time, the whole conflict between the North and the South was couched in terms of states' rights and other lofty issues. But Abraham Lincoln said, no, it's about slavery. And in 1862, he made the whole thing, this is about slavery. When he did that, it ended any hopes for the Confederacy, because Great Britain was on the verge of recognizing the Confederacy. They couldn't after he said, this is about slavery.
So what was that moment tonight?
Well, there were many. North Korea is an example that this is a moral fight. That brought back images to me of 1942 when Roosevelt gave his State of the Union address. He talked to the nation, and he talked about how the Japanese had the surprise attacked and how terrible that was. And in essence, he said to the American people, we have to fight with one hand tied behind our back, because we are an honorable people. We will always do the honorable thing. But he was taking the moral high ground, and whoever has the moral high ground, whether the issue is immigration.
The left would say absolutely the opposite. Not to interrupt you, Doug, but Michael Starr Hopkins, who's running for Senate in New Jersey, was just on earlier saying he doesn't have the moral upper hand on this because he's tying immigration to crime. To which you say?
I say maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but we're talking about his speech. His speech invoked the moral high ground because it illustrated people. Who's going to be against any of those people?
And
who's against the children
parents
who are butchered by an immigrant gang member who came in here? It's hard to argue with
parents, that. And there's no way that you can't. You're right. Feel for them. So it was a moral speech, and I agree with you. There wasn't a lot there that you could really argue with in terms of those people's stories and the emotion I think it brought to all of us.
I like the fact that he didn't have any verbal tics like "believe me, believe me." I like the fact that he used Washington's line. Washington's State of the Union address in 1790, he said that preparation for war is the best way to preserve the peace. And you heard that same line differently from Donald Trump.
A beautiful speech, beautifully written, beautifully delivered.
A great night.
Thank you so much, Doug. It's good to have you and your perspective. A great night indeed. And we're going to continue our analysis all day tomorrow, right?